Hey, dear Almunis, I would like to warmly welcome you here into this little interview we do for the Sing the Spirit online summit. Great to have you.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you to begin that you introduce yourself, say a few words about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so I am Almunis. I was born in Colombia and I have been singing my whole life. I have had a band for the past 12 years called Lula Cruza, and other than singing, and receiving all these different songs that then I made as Lula Cruza, I've been very interested in the power of sound and the power of the human voice as a vehicle for transformation. And it has been my main tool in connecting with myself, connecting to the land, and creating change and harmonizing with groups. So I studied in Boston and Berklee College of Music. Before that I studied in Colombia, with a lot of traditional musicians, masters and healers. And then I got a degree from the California Institute of Integral Studies in voice, music, and sound healing. So I've been working a lot with tuning forks and with my own voice, and I have been developing my own modality of working with the voice as a vehicle. And that's what I do. I call it embodied voice.
Hey, thanks for this little introduction. I'm quite amazed about how intensely, you study the voice and the singing throughout your whole life. I like it when I find people to whom it is such a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Lula Cruza. Some people say that they have been a Latin American cult band, a really underground insider tip where you merged different elements of music together, some traditional, shamanic, and some more modern or even electronic. Could you say something about this process being with Lula Cruza and how you develop your own style?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I was always interested in creating music that seemed real and authentic to me. So growing up in Colombia, I was very close to the medicines from the Amazon and to indigenous cultures, but I was also living in a big city in the capital. So I heard all sorts of music. And to me, it was really powerful to listen to different types of music, and I connected with it. So it was very natural for me to want to make my own music, merging everything that I was in touch with. So I met an Argentinian producer when I was living in Boston, and we were both interested in how can sound be organized according more to the laws of nature and not so much to the laws of music. Mm-hmm. And I was working more on the ritualistic tribal element, the mystics, and with the traditional, the healing traditions from South America. And he was more involved with how technology allows you to organize sound in ways that are similar to the patterns in nature. And so we really merged our vision, and we recorded many albums and toured all over the world. And it was really, for me, a very beautiful way of doing healing work in the dance scene. We played a lot of festivals where people were like, yeah, we're gonna dance, and they're DJs. And then for me, it was a way to receive guidance from spirit and offer a lot of healing to land and to groups of people. So I can say that in a way it was shamanic world, working with certain dimensions and spirits and guardian spirits and ancestral energy, and activating certain points to help release ancestral memories that were like weighing people down. So I was totally devoted with Luis, the producer, to that for 12 years. And we actually closed a cycle of like last year with that. I felt that our mission with Lula Cruza had been accomplished, in that medium of, in the shamanic realms, really, and bringing the music where people were not expecting it. To receive this type of healing, and things changed a lot in the past 13, 14 years in that sense, because now people were not just surprised, oh, I'm feeling all these things and I'm seeing all these things and people crying, and it's just the music is working, but people were like, we know that music can do this, and now there are certain producers and DJs that are doing that work, and people know that they are working with this spiritual transcendental element in parties. So really, when these people started playing out more and being known all over the world, I felt that it was my time to go on to my next calling, which had to do with not so much working in shamanic realms and transforming these dense energies, but really in the refinement of the transmission that has to do with like a golden ascension of the energy of love for people who were already being like, oh, I want to be in community, I want to live better. They already know that, kind of like the basic frequency raised. And that's what we helped do with Lula Cruza. And now, like, I have a new project with my husband, who's a Swedish musician, who also sings and has been doing this very beautiful journey with the Vedas and studying in India and spending a lot of time in Bali, and also very connected to the Nordic traditions through music. And we're now singing together, and it has to do with this kind of like the next octave of our service that is connected to also like getting back in touch with the elemental consciousness in the land, not so much like healing ancestral energy, but kind of like once that has been cleared a bit, it has to do with raising and finding, the inner merging of the masculine and feminine inside each individual, so that then that can happen outside with a partner, and then that can create balance, in communities and in, all of existence through us being complete, full and complete humans. So that new group is called Minuk, and that's the work that I'm doing now. I feel that there's so much work happening through music these days. A lot of people like us that are traveling, and there have been a lot of seeds planted, and I really see that has helped a lot of communities in getting together, and the experiences from a concert or from a festival now is like, okay, what do we do with this? How do we live this past beyond the experience? How do we create something that is really the world that we dream? So I feel this, the music to me has to do with that, and like Lula Cruza's mission had to do with that as well.
Wow, thank you for this beautiful overview, and also with really wise insights. I can very much relate. Mm-hmm. We will talk about your new project in a few minutes. Let me just ask some more about, what you call the last cycle with yes. Lula Cruza and that work. You've been talking a bit already about it, but I'm so curious. This modern shamanic approach, when this is what fascinates me so much. I've always related more to people who have like a bit of a freestyle spirituality, but who still keep the respect. That doesn't mean to do whatever you want, but but to find a new way, you know, in the 21st century. So that's what really fascinated me about the Lula Cruza work and your work then. Sometimes, please apologize if I'm doing you wrong. Sometimes when I watched like photographs from your old band, I was sometimes wondering if it's a bit ironic, or if you sometimes they looked really like you were playing a bit with this shamanic cliche, you could say. Am I mistaken, or did you work also a bit with self-irony, or how could you say?
I don't know what you mean by cliché. I'm sorry.
Okay. Some I will show also here one or two of those beautiful pictures of Lula Cruza when the three of you with your bass player, I think, like were standing there and holding sacred objects, for example, or a shaker. And I was sometimes wondering if you also take it with a bit of humor, or
No, those are the objects we were using. I don't know. There was no humor intended. Those were the objects we were using.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So good just to get this clear. I wanted to share. I witnessed a concert of you in 2016 when you were playing with Lula Cruza at Ancient Trance Festival in Germany. And I had known you a bit before. I was quite a fan of the last album, Orcas. And then I saw the concert, and I was really struck what happened there, what you did. I cannot really describe it. Like, yeah, it was really like you were like a ceremony on the stage in a way. For me, it was really like a fifth dimensional opening. It's hard to describe. It was really, I mean, it was in daylight and it was at a festival, but still it was so deep and pure. That was really extraordinary for me.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
And yeah, maybe that adds a bit to what you were saying before, that you about your how you tried to bring the shamanic work also to a more modern context. Like,
I mean, I think that the shamanic work has to do with being in touch with different dimensions and work with spirit helpers. So that has happened throughout history, and that happens now. So that's the work we were doing, you know, like you connect with the energies of the place and the guardians of the place, and you bring your own guardians, and you help people through, you know, you make like an opening. So sometimes it can be a plant, a sacred plant, gives you visions. Sometimes it can be a chant. So I was not using plants. I was just, you know, I was using sage, for example, or palmita dulce, you know, to raise the vibration. So it's like you work with spirit helpers, and also you work with the forces of the wind and the forces of the stones, and, you know, with elemental helpers to support people's healing. So it's in that way, it's like you are acting as a conduit and a connector for people's expansion and healing. So in that sense, it is a shamanic work, which I now see as it has it has its place and its time, and also a bit of its limitations as well. But yes, that's very much what we were doing, you know, helping people bridge. You bridge the world so that people can connect back to a fuller version of themselves.
Thanks for sharing. Nowadays, many people are more and more drawn to sing, to not only to listen to music all the time, but also to sing themselves, like in singing circles and so on new choirs, whatever. But some find it a bit difficult, maybe. So I wanted to ask, do you have any advice if people want to sing but are a bit shy or uncertain with their voice?
Yes. Well, I think that everything that the voice and the relationship that we have with our own voice shows a lot how we feel about ourselves. So I see that most people approach the voice and the relationship with their own voice is like, there's something that is inside of me that I want to share, and I hope the world loves me back when they hear that. And that's so sad, really, because in the voice you have the full tool to fill yourself and your field up with the love that you already are, that we already are. So I do have I have so much that I would like to share, in general, and that's what I do. I do lots of workshops, helping people find their true expression to their voice. So it has to do with allowing the sound that wants to come. So not judging it and stopping it, it needs to be beautiful. So first I think it's becoming aware that, do I want to sing because I want to be loved back, or just because this is who I am? So if you can talk, you can make sounds, you can sing, really. But we are, we are wired and we are hurt and we have so many ideas about it. But there are very specific things you can do to fill yourself up with the voice, with the sound of your own voice, so that you start remembering that you are a creator. That's the main magic about the voice and the use of your own voice, is that you remember that you are a creator. So it's like the relationship with your hands, with your breath, and the allowing of the universal flow to move through and take form as voice is really what singing is about. It's not about a brilliant composition, although it can be. Some people have that. But for me, it's more like receiving and allowing and trusting the container, and getting to know the container and the vehicle that the whole body is, so that the universal forces can move through, and then whatever sound needs to come to harmonize a space or harmonize your own field, then it can happen, if you allow it. So there are ways of getting in touch with the body that help open all of the system and the instrument, so that it can make sound. And that's really what I advise people, is to start nourishing and nurturing this connection to your own voice, receiving your own voice, it's this warm light, and it can be a little something very small, and then it grows and it grows, and it will want to join other voices, and it will want to sound louder. That's its nature. But I've been a trained singer, and I rarely found any teacher that really guided me in the right direction, because it's all no, you use muscular powers. It's no, you actually what you're using, and what I believe it's better is to use the subtle power, not the muscular power. And it has everything to do with love, with awareness, with allowing, and with opening your body so that it can really receive all of the energy that is constantly seemingly outside of ourselves. So it's we're just letting it move through. That's how I see it.
Wow. I believe in the last 2 minutes which you shared here with us, there were really some really important and helpful points.
Mm-hmm.
How you talked about to start nourishing your own voice or your connection to the voice. How could I start, or how could I nourish this?
So a first very simple practice, would be to get in touch with the body, because that's how the sound is being made, with our whole body. So it's like you can sit, comfortably, or stand. You pay attention to the feet, how your body is resting on the earth. And then you pay attention to your spine, because of course the spine is the main axis. It's like, so we work with the physical axis of the body and allowing it. So we want to imagine that the spine is flexible and all connected. So there is like this very, very simple thing, that is learning to say yes with the head and the pelvis at the same time. So at the beginning you may need to do like a muscular, like, okay, I'm saying yes, and then suddenly it just becomes this very subtle allowing of the energy to move through the crown into your central axis, through the spine, and out from the physical body, like through your energy axis, in through the crystal core of the earth. So we remember that we are in between the crystal core of the earth, through our axis, through the crown, past the physical body, into the start of our origin. So you can start inhabiting your own axis and allowing, for your head and your hips and your pelvis to say yes at the same time. So it should be like this very subtle allowing. And then you can have like your arms kind of floating. And when you breathe, you let everything kind of like just the air fill you up through the nose. And then in the exhalation, you exhale into your own hands, looking at your own hands. So you are going to receive the sound of your own voice, looking at your own hands and saying yes. Right? So you usually you can start with ah. That's a very good sound to start. Any ah that is very easy to do, that is comfortable, is like ah, like you're just remembering. Ah, and you receive the sound with your own hands. And that starts feeding, because you're receiving the sound not only through like the air, but it's also through bone conduction. It's going back and feeding your ears, and starts feeding all of your whole body. So you can say yes, and breathe in, and the exhalation just say ah. Very easy, very gently, with no agenda. It doesn't need to sound, it's not for others to love us back. It's for us to remember that we are creators. So when you say yes and you look at your own hands and you allow the energy to move through, you can start nourishing your own sound. And little by little, you'll start feeling that you can receive more and more, and your fingers start tingling. And it's like, then the energy will want to move through, and it should be this like warm, golden light. It can be tiny, but it's there in everybody. Once you realize that, I don't need to do it towards the outside, but really stay here, receive it, and you start bathing in that sound, restoring like the vibratory body, just with the sound of your own voice. That would be a good start.
Wow. Whew. I mean, while you were showing us, I was practicing a bit, of course not totally, I will make it later, but I could feel this is at the same time a really soft exercise, but really powerful also. Wow, that's a good start, yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned before, when we talked before this interview, that you are planning also to start a vocal trainings or something. Could you tell something about that?
I have been teaching voice lessons for many years, but I travel a lot. So people are always telling me like, oh, how can I, keep doing these practices? Or so I will be recording videos. So I'm on my way to India. We leave tomorrow, and we're going to be there based for 5 months, and then in Bali for a couple of months more. And I will be putting up some videos so that people can follow, do these practices, so that I can pass this information. Yes.
One small question I had in my mind when I saw you in concert and also on the albums, sometimes your voice is like a bird or relates to. Can you say something about singing and related to the birds?
Well, I think, I was trained as a musician since I was 4 years old. So I always sang. I always sang pretty, like and in tune. And it was always like a very contained, beautiful force, but very contained. And it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe 2003 that I started doing more work like with my body and with drama therapy and allowing, to play different characters, like your objects and your emotions, and, like really getting deep into allowing the body to express without the filter of beauty, which was like a big thing for a trained musician, that wants to be loved back. And I started, after one exercise, we're like moving and breathing and making sounds. And then I went into the center of the room and I started making sounds, and I could literally not stop. There were all these bird sounds and creatures that were singing through me, and I really experienced it, that it was happening through me. I looked at people kind of scared, like, I'm sorry. I was so afraid of how powerful it was. It was a really strong current, and it lasted, I don't know, 12 minutes or something, and then it calmed down. It was like something had opened in my channel and it needed to be cleansed, and there were so many animal sounds that came. And then I started being very interested in that experience. So I figured that I was really opening certain gates, and that's what happens. Many people tell me like, yeah, when I'm singing in circles, it's like sometimes I'm there, I'm free and I'm open, and then sometimes I'm not. And it's this like tiny little voice and I can't do stuff. So it's like, it's not about you needing to train as a musician or as a singer, but really getting to know what is happening energetically that allows for the flow to be or not. Also for you not to be like completely taken over by the flow. So it's like, how do you build your energy body and your emotional body and your mind body so that it can be a vehicle? So I started really being interested in what happened, and I discovered that there were these different portals that open and allow like the flow of different elements and consciousness, and dimensions. You can tap into these different dimensions and allow them to move through. And when I was working with that, like people were training in the conservatory and practicing in the practice rooms, and I would just like get in the practice rooms and like do whatever sound, like no filter. And I think very few people feel like they have space to do that. I had to be in a room where nobody could hear me so that I could really allow that to happen, and it was like a cleansing power that started cleansing all the memories, all the, like ideas about what I should be, how beautiful the voice had to be, and it was just a very wild force. But I had to find a place where others could not hear me so that I could feel safe. So I understand, it's not easy. You're so afraid of not being loved that you never make space for the true expression that will ultimately cleanse you and allow for the true expression to shine, to be an offering, to be a service, to be the joy, And I developed more and more singing like that, just opening to sound and letting it come through. And one day, these really high pitched sounds that sounded like birds started coming. And they came with a specific patterns of notes as well. It wasn't just like these high things. It was like this, clearly I was tapping into bird like consciousness. And they came. And if you ask me what happens, I don't know how to do it. Like if my voice teachers is like, yeah, I know you're raising the soft palate and but this is something else, because I really feel I'm just, and I see, it's really a really high vibration. And it was just like an experience, and it would sometimes happen and it would sometimes come, this high, very high pitched voice with the melody patterns. And then maybe a couple of months later, somebody showed me an album by Luzmila Carpio. She's a very accomplished singer from Bolivia, from the high mountains, and she carries the tradition of the women who sing and talk to the birds. And she sings exactly like I sing, with these same patterns. So it's like there is, sometimes you do something and it exists. Like that's when I tapped into that current, the current of the women from the high mountains of South America that sing to the birds. And she has an incredible career in the modern world in this like oral tradition that she received, through her mom and grandmother, who they reproduce the sounds of birds, and they also, it's like these codes. Like for me, melodies are codes. It's not like something you make up so that it's nice and expresses your emotion. That's like, okay, that's music here. But then when you really open yourself to be a channel for music, it's not only about inspirational words, which is great, but it's really, you're receiving these codes and you're passing these codes and you're like impregnating these codes in everything that has water, basically, for it to be rearranged. So these like high-pitched, like bird codes have to do with the freedom and with the beauty. It's like a very feminine medicine, that is present in men and women, but it's kind of like, it's okay to be very, very beautiful, and it's safe to be beautiful, and you can be beautiful and free. So it's like a bird, very specific bird medicine. And it came through like a sound, that I allowed, I let it come through my body, and then it was like receiving more and more about what it is about.
I'm really getting goosebumps right now.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah. That was another deep insight, which I didn't expect. Thank you. I can tell you, this interview until now is such a treasure for me. I'm listening, and as I mentioned, I'm a musician, but I'm not a trained musician, and been working my own way. Somehow life has called me to do it. But when I listen to you or also some other people here on the conference, I take a deep breath and I know, wow, there's so much more to learn and to develop. That's a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Almunis, if I were in a workshop of yours or in a vocal training, how would you support me to find my own melody or my own medicine song? How would you? What could be a way?
Well, that's what the training that I do is about, but it has to do with being in touch with the body, to really being present in the body and getting to know the places where we can be more open, like, and flexible, like internally, like really. So it has to do with becoming aware of how the energy moves through us. So, for example, I work a lot with spirals. So how everything, like in the body, can be understood as spiral. So there's like a spiral that moves towards the center and a spiral that expands from the center, right? And anything in terms of posture in the body is a combination of these two forces. It's not like this should be like this, and for singing you need to be, it's just like it's the meeting of these two forces that allow us to open. You know, we see it as these two currents that are working together. And when we start working with that, and you start being aware of which spiral direction is more prominent in your body, for example, like all the spirals that go in are more like feminine spirals. They're like embrace, they go inward. But if you have too much of this, you can't really put your voice out. If you have a lot of like the external spiral, it's more like the masculine spiral is stronger, then you tend to burn others. You can't really listen. You know, it's like your voice, you lose your voice of you're using too much force, and that can be subtly, in subtle ways, like rearranged by us becoming aware of it, so that the forces are in better balance, and you allow, if you don't have a lot of feminine energy spiral, so you can bring all that towards you. So I work a lot with the body and the subtle energy that is really not so subtle. It's pretty evident, and once you are in a group, you're like, wow, it's clear this person has more of the masculine spiral, is ready for action, nothing will stop them. But for the voice, it's like there needs to be they need to be more contained, you know, and like be like, oh, okay, I humble down to this, which she already is, or the opposite. So I support, you know, people in finding out through scanning of the body with some, you know, small things, to realize and pay attention to which spirals are stronger, and with the use of vowels, which also, that's what I work with mainly. That's like the main ingredient of the voice is vowels and humming. And you can start balancing the energy, the flow of energy, and becoming aware of how energy is flowing through your body, and that shows in the voice. So as you do it, the voice will want to get into the places where there is less resonance in the body. So that more or less is like it's a full like energetic training to be aware, and it adds, you know, if you already do some yoga or tai chi, it's like it's perfect because you're like, okay, I just lean back or like root, you know, my sacrum a little bit more, and then this whole thing opens in the larynx. It's like the larynx is just reflecting how the overall system, mind-body system is. So instead of trying to get it there, you know, like try higher, open. It's like, what is that? I can't open up more because it's not safe, you know. It's not just, it's like you don't know how to do it. But what I do is like I work with the body so that you can be aware of, oh, the energy, what I am allowing to move through is actually shaping my body, and is shaping the sound that I am capable of making. And you become aware, oh, now it's open. What is happening that now it feels like it's happening, like it's flowing and resonant. So the group exercises work a lot because your body will hear and will want to create more sound through sympathetic resonance. Like that's why it works. The particles will want to move in the same rate because there's less friction. So the bodies will feed each other in creating a bigger sound. That's why working with a harmonium or with any drone really helps the voice, because it's full of harmonics. So all these components of sound feed your own system so that your body will want to make these harmonics and you have a richer sound. It's the same as doing this. Even if you just talk like this, the voice gets richer because you are hearing more harmonics. So it's the beauty of sound, you know. It's just wants to get richer if you really allow it and you give it a good container. Is that
I'm so grateful for all that you shared. It's really
No.
precious,
Thank you.
really precious. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, so you mentioned your new project. It is with your husband, Markus Berg, Markandea.
Yes.
And yeah, so you form a little band, you could say, a duet called Minuk.
Minuk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would love to hear something about this at the end now of our conversation. And if I'm right, you are planning to record an album. And will you record in India, or what are your plans?
Yes, we started recording in Ecuador with some local musicians that we love, and now the plan is to keep finishing the album in India. Yes. Yeah. So this project is really like the meeting of our lifelong journeys, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as for now, there are already some little live videos or some snippets where we can see the both of you, and well, from my outside point of view, I have to say it's really lovely to watch the both of you together. Like I can feel a strong harmony, and yeah, it opens my heart, yeah, to see you both just being together and also singing together. I'm glad that you found this new constellation.
Yes.
And also musically speaking, how would you describe the music of Minuk, or in which direction are you going?
I think the big difference for us in Minuk, both for Marcus and for me, is that when I was in La Cruz, I was kind of on a mission. I was like bringing this like healing energy to places where it was needed. And so the transformational festival scene and the dance scene were a good place to do that. But I was really like on this, I had this vision of planting all these seeds and bringing this energy from South America to different places. So it was like I had a vision and I was going, and I was like, okay, anywhere where this music is needed, may everything be open so that it reaches those places. And so I never stopped traveling, because there was always a call for that, and lots of communities needing this energy and this vibration. And since we met with Marcus, it became very clear that this was like the next stage in our service. And he had been doing the same, like he had a vision, and he was kind of leading as well, like his own project, and had a vision of bringing like wisdom from the Vedas and wisdom about like the fullness of the self through music. So it's almost like music is an excuse for a transmission that is happening through, the sounds and the words and the presence and the projection that people have on you. It's kind of like everything, you want to put into there will serve that purpose. But with Minuk, it really feels like each one of us went on a personal, very deep journey of balancing energy of like the masculine and feminine inside of ourselves. That was, maybe different from the shamanic realms, where it's like the woman is like this and she holds the water, and the man works with the fire. It's like, that's beautiful. You have the polarities very defined, but then there's like this merging. That's like the alchemical inner marriage, where you finally like complete yourself, and you remember that you are whole, that we are whole. So we both went individually into our journeys, marrying ourselves, like the feminine and the masculine aspects inside of ourselves, and then the meeting with each other was possible. And so the music is very much informed by that fullness, but that recognition that we are already each one a full individual. We are not really complementing each other. It's like we're creating something where each one of us is full, and that's something an understanding that came when the time was ripe for me and for him. And so the music works in a very different way because it's just allowing. It's not a mission, and it's not like I have a vision and I have a mission around it, but it's just we just allow it to be. And it's hard, because we're so used to we're going there and we're doing this. It's just like whatever wants to be born from our meeting. It has its purpose and its own flow that we can't really control. That has to do with surrendering to that divine will that has brought us together. And it's very clear, like it's this heart energy that expands. It's a soft, radiant light that expands. So it's not about doing, like, as I was saying, doing before, like exorcisms with spirits and stuff like that. It's like, it's okay, all of it is okay. And then we invite different ancestral energies, into this golden glow, and they get, healed, and they get, everything is allowed to be. So it has to do more like how do we dance in harmony with the energies inside of ourselves and with each other, and also with my daughter. It's like a whole, it has a very different feeling, and we're just allowing it to be. So the songs are all about allowing it to be and making ourselves available for, fully present, and everything that we've gathered and all these connections and tools, but very softly. Like, okay, it's not how I would do it alone. It's not how he would do it alone. It's what wants to be born from us. It's a really, like, grace, like graceful and sometimes hard. It's about surrendering and grace, and so that's what we're doing now.
Hey, that's touching. I can honestly say I'm looking forward to the album, and I wish you much inspiration and a good flow for that.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you found the time now so shortly before you leave to India. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all your knowledge. Thank you for all your wisdom.
Thank you.
And I wish you the best. I hope to hear from you again. It's as I said, it's been really a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you. Likewise.